Okay, so we all agree that the TVA is like shady as hell, right? Hello everyone, I am back to YouTube just in time to start doing reviews of the Loki series. It just started on Wednesday and I am very ready for Marvel to be too big a part of my life again. So you all know the drill at this point, but for anybody new who's showing up, first of all, hi! And second of all, basically, I will go through what happens in the episode, review said episode, and then give my theories as I go along, because otherwise I will forget my theories. It has happened before. Also, just to preface, as usual, I have not read the Marvel comics that this is based off of. I've only watched all of the movies, I've watched WandaVision, and I've watched the animated TV shows, and the animated Ultron movie, which I feel like people forget about, but it was a good one. We stan Kid Hawkeye in this house. Alrighty, so the first episode starts with the scene in Endgame where the Avengers travel back to 2012 to get the Tesseract from Avengers Tower. So as we know, Loki grabs the Tesseract and escapes. Where does he end up? Well, he ends up in a portal in the sky and crash lands into the Gobi Desert. So Loki tries to give his Avengers burdened with glorious purpose speech to the people in the Gobi Desert, but they do not understand him, which is where the first plot hole exists. Asgardians do not speak English. They are speaking Allspeak. They should be understood by everybody who they come across. Unless we're trying to claim that an alien society that only had ties to the Nordic countries suddenly and somehow developed speaking English, this doesn't make sense. Another square portal appears and a group of hunters come out and say that Loki is under arrest for his crimes against the sacred timeline. They also have devices that can reset the timeline and control how time flows around an individual person, which is a little too much power for an as of yet unknown motives organization. Loki gets processed through this organization and the man at the front desk touches the Tesseract, even though previously normal humans who have touched the Tesseract have famously been traveled into space, a la Red Skull, or killed. His clothes get vaporized in a very fan servicey moment, and he's told to sign a record of all of the things that he has ever said. They also determine that he is not a robot to his knowledge, which I also would like to know. Do a lot of people not know that they're robots? Marvel, please do a deleted scene or a short clip and explain that one, please. As he waits in line for something, we see a 1984-esque Jetsons-inspired video explaining what the Time Variance Authority is. So apparently, long ago there was a multiversal war where all of the timelines fought against each other to become the dominant and/or only timeline, and the multiverse was almost destroyed. But the all-knowing timekeepers appeared and turned the multiverse into the sacred timeline. Now, if a person or variant does something that goes against the sacred timeline, like being late for work, and potentially causes a branch to be created off of the sacred timeline, that's a problem. Essentially, mystery beings appeared out of nowhere, completely changed the universe, decided to police the universe to make it stay that way, and created an organization filled with people who they also created, and thus would not know how to say no or look for alternatives. The more you think about it, the creepier it is. The TVA did not look good from the beginning, but the more you think about it, the creepier it is. They're very much like the Commission from the Umbrella Academy, but instead of working towards an apocalypse, they're just working for a timeline. Also, the for all time, always phrase is going to be in my nightmares. That's cult shit. That's a cult. The show then cuts to 1549 in France, where a group of hunters have been murdered, and we find out that there have been multiple attacks recently where hunters going out to search for Variance have been killed. A little kid who is still at the church points to a stained glass image of the devil when asked what the Variant looks like. Now, something to think about. Loki's head thing has horns. Okay, coming back to Loki, he's on trial for his crimes and he doesn't plead guilty. Rather, he says that it's the Avengers' fault because if they had not time traveled, he would not have gotten the Tesseract. And he's right. He's definitely right and he should say it. However, the judge says what they did was supposed to happen and what he did was not. According to the timekeepers anyways, to which I call bullshit. The things the Avengers did obviously would have created branch timelines, so it doesn't make sense that they allowed their actions to go forward but were then surprised that branch timelines were created. Also, I call BS because since Steve was able to show up as an old man at the end of Endgame, that means that Steve going back to the 1950s to marry Peggy was also part of the sacred timeline, which, if it is, then that would mean that they reset every single version of Steve who tried to stop Hydra or expose Hydra or save his friend, because you know for a fact he would have tried to save Bucky. And if they did reset every version of him, then what was the point of Steve going back? Like, why did they let that happen? Like, if they just allowed it to happen because it's just further proof that the Timekeeper's sacred timeline is whack and just based off of random whim. Anyways, Owen Wilson's character steps in before Loki is reset and then put back into the timeline, I think. Or the timeline has already been reset and he is there and they've just kept this version of him. I'm not really sure how that works. Like, once they reset them, do they put them back, or does he just like into nowhere? But anyways, he takes Loki to a room where he shows him different parts of his life. We find out that Loki was the mysterious D.B. Cooper, but we also see him hurt people a lot. Owen Wilson's Mobius, for Mobius strip, keeps psychoanalyzing Loki and is obviously trying to press on his triggers and wounds. And I'm not entirely mad at that. It's sort of like a go stand in the corner and think about what you've done moment, because even though it is a fan favorite theory, as far as we're aware, Loki was not under Thanos' control when he came to conquer Earth. He was doing that out of his own volition. So he was hurting people out of his own volition. Was he probably not doing so hot after who knows how much time in the void and then with the other? Sure, but he still made the choice to hurt people on Earth, and he should have to look at what he's done and look at the consequences of his actions and his future actions. The hunter who originally captured Loki shows up to the room to protest what Mobius is trying to do with Loki, and in the meantime, Loki escapes. He finds the desk clerk with the Tesseract and also finds out that they get multiple versions of the Infinity Stone all the time, and they literally just use them as paperweights. So the power of the TVA is essentially more than Loki could possibly imagine or fight against. He goes back to the room that he was originally in and watches the rest of his path and his reconciliation with his family and his eventual death, and sort of gives up on escaping. He also very satisfyingly gets one over on the hunter who captured him and makes her rewind like they all kept making him do, which was very much a moment. After he confirms that he doesn't enjoy hurting people, Mobius asks Loki if he wants to help them track down a dangerous variant. Loki asks why him, and Mobius says because that dangerous variant is you. However, when they flash to the next attack, the attacker stays hooded, indicating some kind of mystery. Maybe it's not Loki, maybe it's a Loki different than the one we know. And that's how the episode ends. To be completely honest, it does feel like there's a lot of setup in this episode, but I think it was a natural stopping point. I think that the setup was necessary for two reasons. Firstly, I think that Disney was trying their best to make it so that people who had not watched all of the Avengers movies or all of the Marvel movies could still reasonably understand what was going on in the TV show, and two, so that we could get the necessary exposition on what the heck is going to be going on in this show so that we're not confused in the later episodes. I do not feel good about the TVA or the Timekeepers, and I highly suspect that they will be a mid-season or end-of-season surprise, not-so-surprise villain. I also didn't like that they kept saying, oh sure, you have a choice. I didn't like that they kept saying that people's paths are predetermined, because they literally aren't. You guys, you're very obviously showing that they aren't, because people are able to make choices that don't go with the sacred timeline or what you want. You guys are just deleting any of the choices you don't like. So it's not true that people don't have choices. It's just saying that, oh look, this group of people who's more powerful than you, who you don't know exists, is able to control the choices that they don't like. And the fact that a random person being late for work is able to cause a nexus event that could create an alternate timeline means that their sacred timeline is incredibly fragile. Also, did they just decanonize the entirety of the multiverse? Or are they planning on creating a new multiverse at the end of the show just in time for Doctor Strange? I think the second one. My theories so far are that either Mobius or the Timekeepers are going to be surprise villains, and that the hooded Loki either is not actually Loki, is a significantly branched off version of Loki, like from way in the beginning of his timeline, or that it is Lady Loki. And if it is Lady Loki, I will lose it. I want her to be on screen so bad. She is possibly one of my favorite not currently canon MCU characters, and I very much look forward to seeing a Lady Loki and also honestly her costumes. Like, sign me up for a Lady Loki cosplay. And that is the end of this video. I hope you liked this video. If you did like it, please like and subscribe if you want to see more of my content. I took a little bit of a break, but I will be posting videos once a week. I'm going to be doing one video per Loki episode. Oh, and also follow me on Instagram at AceNina. It will show up somewhere on the screen if I figure out how to edit it in. I post about my videos there too. Okay, bye!